Hey, good morning, everyone. You are with Tom and Riz on Saturday Extra on Ludicrous Feed Live. Thanks so much for joining us. Today is Saturday, the 5th of August, 2023. It's just past 8 a.m. here on the east coast of Australia. And of course, Riz joins us this morning. Riz, how are you?
Yeah, going well, Tom. Thanks, everyone. Good to see everyone here already. It's just at 8 o'clock this morning.
I know, Riz. I'm very actually encouraged by all the viewers who joined us this early on Saturday. So, yeah, hats off to all of you. Uh, well done. Let's say hello to some of the members and viewers who are on. So Gaffer's on. Hello, Gaffer, one of our long-standing members. Nice to see you. Got Jace from sunny Lagana in Tasmania. Hello. Got Graham from Watto. Oh, sorry, Watto 3 with Yasso 3 in Shepparton. Nice alias there. Love it. And of course, Kevin joins us from Florida. Kevin is one of our loyal listeners and viewers. Riz, isn't that fantastic?
Mm. Yeah, all the way up from the US. One of
Yeah.
our only regular viewers from the US, and he's there every Thursday night and Saturday morning here now.
Yeah, no, so thankful for your viewing and listening too. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. And watching us on live. Thank you, everyone. If you're joining us live here, come join us in the conversation and drop a comment. And also, if you're listening to us on audio podcast, hello as well. Thanks for joining us. And if you're watching us on replay, no worries. Just leave a comment. We'll look at all those comments later on. Got Jim. Hello, Jim. We've got Elizabeth. Hello there from foggy Northern Rivers, New South Wales, presumably. Um, and Jeremy's saying, after a trip in my Ioniq 5, I find that my hair has grown back a bit. Oh, that's great. There you go. My question is, assuming the 800 volt system is doing this, this also happen in lower voltage EVs. Riz, is this scientifically proven, hair regrowth in EVs?
Oh, look, not yet. But if we had other ambassadors for hair growth products, such as the belated Shane Warne, then I'm sure he'd be driving an EV as well to promote the fact that hair does grow back, especially in vehicles with 800-volt architecture.
Yeah. It does charge quickly for sure. And Greg, hello, Greg from Perth. Yeah, oh wow, Perth. What, 6 a.m. in Perth at the moment? So, Greg, wow, thanks for joining us so early. Got Paul joining us and JD Media. Hello, crew. Hello, indeed. And Billy says, first thing to do upon entry is to hit the like. Yes, indeed. Thanks very much. Riz, so much to chat about as always on a Saturday morning. What do you want to talk about first?
Look, I think we'll sort of kick off with this week we had the sales come out for electric vehicles in Australia, and I did a bit of analysis yesterday on it, and we've nearly hit 50,000 electric cars in the country in the first 7 months alone. Yeah, remarkable. Particularly Tesla and BYD doing extremely well, and others are not too far behind as well when it comes to the sales they had last year.
Yeah, that's really tremendous, really, considering there are only 130 odd thousand EVs in Australia, right? So we've you know, almost what 40% of the mark in the last 6 months. Amazing.
Yeah, we closed last year off with about 67,000 on the road, and now it's we're approaching close to the 120 to 130,000 mark now. Um, Tesla has done really well with nearly 30,000 vehicles so far this year, and July is traditionally a slow delivery month for Tesla, the way they manufacture cars for Australia. But even then, this time around, the Model Y was uh, the second best-selling passenger cars if you exclude the Utes.
Mm. Yeah, it's definitely the clear leader in the EV market. Anecdotally for myself as well, having a few referrals on board, it's definitely more referred than the Model 3. And on our roads too, like they're both great cars, but there's certainly a lot more Model Ys that I can see in Sydney at least. So yeah, and obviously BYD too, having some success, delivering over 1,000 vehicles in each of the last 5 months. So yeah, congrats to BYD Australia too.
Yeah, they seem to be doing quite well, and hopefully in the next month or so, we'll find out about the next mass volume car, the Dolphin. Um, Volvo is very surprising. I mean, they're quiet achievers. They've sold nearly 2,500 of them this year, and we don't really give them as much credit as I guess what the sales numbers and electric vehicle owners and enthusiasts do, because they see that as a very quality product.
You're right, Riz. Like the Volvo XC40 and C40, because they share the platform with an ICE equivalent, you don't actually see them as much. Like they're not as obvious as like a Tesla or even a Polestar or BYD, because you think, oh, that's another ICE Volvo, ICE Volvo. But actually, yeah, there's a lot of XC40s driving around. If you look a bit closer, especially I think the front grille is a bit different in the EV platform, and obviously if you look
Yeah,
around the back, the badging is there.
it's really cool, and like the subtleness of it is it's sort of a very positive sign that people are making the switch. People are not doing it to make a stance anymore. Remember the Priuses when they first came out, and pretty much every second person in Hollywood had one, uh,
Yeah,
because they were trying to make an impact and show that they were different, and
dickhead.
where
Yeah.
these sort of blend in. And I think that's a really, really good sign that we're sort of getting to a stage where people are not buying something to make a um, stance on the fact that they're doing something. It's just people are buying them because they're just better cars to have.
Yeah, that's right. And they don't necessarily want to stick out. They just want a good car, right? And Volvo in Australia, I think 2025, they are switching over to 100% electric. So that's great. And that's ahead of the curve for the rest of the world for Volvo. So great work, Volvo Australia. And I'm certainly very excited to see the Volvo EX30 arrive in the next 18 months, as you said in your article. So that's going to be quite an affordable vehicle for Australia.
Yeah, comparatively, we're hoping for it to be around 60 to $70,000 mark when it does. I think the pricing's already announced, but can they get them in large volumes? I think, given, as you said, Tom, that Volvo's made a stance that by 2025 or six they will be
Mhm.
completely phasing out all ICE sales. They have every reason to sell these really well, and I think the market's looking at that and saying, "Yeah, we want one."
Yeah, 100%. That we are definitely ready. I've only driven a Volvo a XC40 once, and they're good cars. I was really impressed actually by the build quality and the tech in there. So well done. Let's take some more comments from the crew. So we've got Gaffer saying hair growing back must be magnets. It's always magnets. There you go. We don't promote any scientific theories here, by the way. Just what we see, what we call. Greg Tan just picked up my Model Y on Thursday. Congratulations. Excited to give it a longer drive this weekend. Yeah, go for it. Gaffer saying with the amount of new EVs coming through, I don't think charging infrastructure for peak holiday demand is keeping up. Yep, that's 100% true, Gaffer. Riz, any insights onto the charging rollout currently in Australia?
The way things are sort of looking, we're above 550 fast charger sites commissioned, so they're active at the moment. Um, Funnily enough, there was something earlier this week. One of the senior managers at NRMA put something out on LinkedIn that I saw that, they're still talking about doing something, but I guess there's no words on, when the app will be rolled out or when more chargers will come out. So their national network, we haven't heard anything more about, apart from I think they're starting to hire some engineering managers as such. But time will tell. But they need to really sort of speed things up. Otherwise, we're easily going to double last year's. Well, we're pretty much nearly doubled last year's total EV fleet that was there at the end of last year. So at this stage, if they're just starting to hire now, by the time even any site has even done engineering design, we'll be into next year, and by that stage, we'll have pretty much three times the number of EVs as we did at the end of last year,
Yeah,
and no
no, that's
chargers.
correct, Riz. Exactly. It's not keeping up. But I guess the flip side is that yes, a lot more EVs, but there's probably a lot more tolerance versus petrol vehicles because you can charge at home, and not everyone takes a road trip at the same time. Although having said that, people do take road trips on key dates like Good Friday, Boxing Day, public holidays like that. So the road, highway infrastructure does need to keep up. And yeah, the NRMA, we've been saying all along, like we need to see some leadership there. You've got lots of chargers, but we need the app. We need for them to start being fee-based rather than being free. And that's very important, I think.
Last time I checked in our data around NRMA chargers, there were around 55 sites for DC fast chargers, but at the same time, like that's obviously heavily concentrated in New South Wales, which is great for New South Wales residents. But recently, obviously, with free for all, there is near altercations occurring already. So I think if anyone that's thinking about visiting our NRMA charger, especially around Christmas time, it would be advised to take a motorcycle helmet with you. Because if you want to charge, that is. Otherwise, try some of the newer stuff. The Pheasant Nest sites that Ampol's got rolling out. EV's got a fair few. ChargeFox is continuously growing their network as well. It's probably a more pleasant experience for the family to charge at one of the paid sites than hang around waiting for an NRMA free site. But they really need to fix this before Christmas.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And think about it, like it's not that expensive. Like, is $20 worth an hour of your time? I don't know, maybe it is. Different for different people. But personally, I just want to get on with it. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents as well. Thanks, Riz, for that commentary. Let's take a few more comments, and I'm going to put up a new charging site from Ballarat, which our viewer has, Greg Wilson, has showed us this week. So before that, I just want to put some comments up. So Tassie EV, one of our regulars. Morning, guys. A bit late, but made it. Thank you. And Varun saying, good morning, fellas. Hello there. And yeah, Bondana's, I've become a statistic. Just ordered a black Model Y rear-wheel drive. Congratulations. Jace is going to compare test driving a Model 3 with an Atto 3. Cool. Come back to us, Jace, and tell us how you go. And Tassie EV just reminded me, yes, the new 2024 Kona EV is set to launch. I got an email this week from Hyundai saying the petrol one is here, and they're waiting for the electric one to come out. So that just reminded me I will try to book a press car drive for you guys for the Kona. That looks good, actually, the new Kona EV. Tassie EV also needs idle fees, correct? Everyone needs idle fees, actually. Yeah, across the board. And Robert says, I saw an older video saying charging LFP to 100% is only to get an accurate range. So for daily driving, it is best to charge to 80%, then 100% for longer trips. Well, look, the official advice from Tesla, and by the way, it's funny, this week I've just noticed their manual online is different now to what it used to be, but certainly in car, it says that you should plug into 100% each time and at least once a week charge to 100%. So there is room for interpretation there, but I have released a video on what I do with my own car, so check that one out. Certainly for NMC, NMA batteries, no, 100% only if you're doing a road trip. But LFP, I think you're pretty safe to go to 100% most times. And Han Solo says, Fisker recently announced a new lineup of cars. Yes, we'll go through that as well. Thanks, Han. But before we do that, I want to show this to everyone. So this was kindly sent to me this week from Greg Wilson, one of our regular members and viewers who may come on later on, I guess. But this is the new Ballarat supercharger location. 10 bays is in Lucas in Ballarat. I'll just put these up here for everyone to see. So there we go. Some pictures there of the charger stalls. Next to, I can see Ampol in the distance. So I guess amenities nearby. I think Woolies is nearby as well. And I think KFC is across the road too. So fairly convenient there for most things. And they look like they're B3 250 kilowatt chargers as well. Riz, there's already one in Ballarat. We talked about this on Thursday a little bit. Will the original Ballarat site close, do you think?
It could possibly, but I guess Tesla always phases things out and sees what the demand looks like. 10 bays, I think it's part of it could be to drive more tourism out that way. And, we know that electric car owners do like to get out there because they don't necessarily ruin the weekend. And yeah, I think the fact that it's there and it's close enough and it's a big town, 10 bays, if Tesla has plans to open it up to non-Tesla EVs as well, then I can definitely see that site being quite busy, especially around the holiday periods.
Yeah, so Greg has done a great job here. He's actually highlighted, this is Greg's hometown, he lives here, and he's highlighted exactly where these chargers are. So if you're passing through Ballarat, site 1 is here, the original site, and site 2 is a bit more west of the town. And it looks like it's pretty well serviced, Ballarat. You've got ChargeFox chargers, you've got EV very close by, and I think it's en route from Adelaide to Melbourne. So it's quite a good location for a Tesla supercharger. So well done, Tesla. I did see some commentary around why does Ballarat have a second charger site when there are so many other places around Australia that need them. I reckon, Riz, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of places are slated to have new Tesla superchargers, but there's a lot of ducks that need to line up for them to commission. So Ballarat obviously got their act together very quickly, and that's why they got their chargers first.
Yeah, so there's always room around car parks because, eventually they turn into charging bays. Councils always have a bit of an issue trying to convince the residents because you're always going to get people and say, that's 10 less car parks that I could have parked at when I was there. But I think Tesla obviously is getting better at how they're negotiating and getting those car parks pretty quickly. And more people, even everyday people, are seeing more EVs on the road and they know they need to be charged. So Tesla streamlining that process, hopefully the councils and I don't even think the state government would have gotten involved in this stuff because they are not, that into EVs or charging. So, but I think on the other hand, it's getting easier for Tesla to roll out because they're just such a bigger brand now than what they were even 12 months ago.
Yep, correct. And obviously Riz is from Victoria, so he's referring to the Victorian government. Hopefully by 2029, when Riz gets his Cybertruck, then, Victorian government might come on board.
Well, that's right. I mean, I could be delivering things to, places like Ballarat and have it in such a big bed that the Cybertruck has. But yeah, 2029, still got about 6 years left.
We'll see. And Tassie EV makes a good point. Too bad Ballarat wasn't V4 ready for all EVs with longer cables and credit card readers available. Look, there's only about 5 V4 sites around the world, so if Australia got one, I'd be very, very, very surprised in the next 12 to 24 months. But fingers crossed, we'll see. We need more V3s actually to start with because they do charge a lot quicker. But good point there. And thanks, Gary. Gary's just great job, guys. Thank you very much. Speaking of Tesla superchargers, I'll just quickly show this one. This is a new Tesla supercharger site in New Plymouth in New Zealand. 3 stalls. Obviously, New Zealand's a much smaller country than ours. It's a much smaller land area, so I guess 3 stalls is reasonable. For their population density, but still V3s, so I'm happy with that too. Cool. And Paul says hello too. Hello, Paul. Good morning indeed. Thank you for joining us. Riz, what is next on the breakfast menu here for us?
So I think one of the viewers just pointed out Fisker has announced a bit of a pickup truck or a Ute. I mean, naming conventions aside, because people always jump on and say Utes were like Holden and Fords that were converted from sedans. But yeah, Fisker's launched one and it looks pretty cool. It was surprising. They did it at their product demonstration day. And they also launched another vehicle as well. But that pickup truck looks pretty cool because anyone that wants to play in that space, we know there's a gap in the market.
Yes, sorry, I think I'm showing the Pear, which is actually a SUV, not a pickup truck, right? So if I got the wrong.
Yeah, Pear I think is a smaller SUV than their Ocean.
Okay, let me show this one instead. So this might be it.
Yeah, that's it.
So this is this is definitely a pickup. So yeah, a few on offer there now. Cybertruck, Rivian, Fisker F-150. So another one to add to the mix. Amazing.
Called the Alaska. And it's got some interesting features on how much space you can get in the back. I wonder if they'll show that in this video. The bed extends out and it has a sort of a hidden section behind the seats that sort of slides down. They call it I think the Houdini version or whatever they call it, that it extends it out quite a bit more and gives more space in the back than what you'd get with the standard sort of Ute of that, I guess, that length.
Yep. Now the pickups in America, I mean, obviously we have a lot of Utes here in Australia, but are the Utes here in Australia used often for, utility vehicles as such, like they're used for tradies? work vehicles. In America, is it the same where they use them for those kind of things, or is it more of a recreational vehicle that people take out to the mountains for the weekend or similar?
I think it's a bit of both. You know, even in Australia, we call a lot of the Rangers and Hiluxes, I guess, particularly the Ford Rangers, they're sort of known for what they call lifestyle utes. So
Mm,
over there, it's more adventuring utes or adventuring pickups. Here, they call them lifestyle utes. A lot of people don't really, you know, cart a lot in the back. Some may tow trailers and other things. During the week and in the weekends, they can go out. Um, and yeah, I think that's a little bit of this with this vehicle. It's more for adventuring and lifestyle than it is for, let's say, loading stuff, moving things, towing things. Um,
mm,
and that is a big market. Like even surprisingly, Hyundai also has a I guess a similar pickup in the US, and it's a nice pickup. I think it's called the Santa Cruz or something, and
mm-hmm.
there is a market for these smaller trucks, pickup trucks in the US, because then you get some of the larger diesel guzzling ice trucks that are used as pretty much tow trucks.
Yeah.
So they have a much wider range compared to what we've got in Australia for pickups.
Yeah, that's right. We've got Gaffer saying sort of over pickup from form factor. Sorry, sort of over pickup form factor. Bring back the real Ute. Got to be a better form factor. Yeah, so like the sporty performance sedan with the tray at the back. Yep, I know what you're saying, Gaffer. And Paul is saying, since Australia also has Pepsi, when do you think we'll get the Tesla Semi trial here? 750 kilowatt charging. Yeah, that's right. I saw a picture of some Pepsi semis lined up there in the US. So, good question, Paul. I don't know. I mean, I guess they've got to pass the ADRs first in Australia, so we shall see. Question for you, Jerry, for Riz, from Jerry. Hi guys, would Riz put a deposit on a BYD Ute if that arrives first? Now, see that it's very interesting. So the Chinese Utes, like the BYD, the Geely Radar, like that will be very compelling indeed.
I think there's certainly a space for that. It all comes down to the price as well. I mean, um, once upon a time in my past life, I used to drive a Ute for work. That was a work car, a Ford Ranger. But it was fine, but it was too big for me. It was just a work car, so that was fine. I wasn't towing anything or anything with it. So I think there's a lot of fleets in Australia that currently purchase Utes because they think they need them, but they could get away with a electric SUV or and even electric Ute like the Radar, which as we only recently learned that the first export batch has been sent out. We don't know where, and we know it's not really for Australia. Could possibly be Thailand. That's another big market. But yes, I would consider one if they were sort of around 60 to $70,000 price point. Particularly the Radar, I quite like the look of that.
Yeah. And again, like having these Utes, like I don't necessarily want a Ute because I don't haul that much or need to carry that much, but having them on standby for rental from like Sixt or even another car sharing platform, that'd be great to have for the weekend to, I don't know, whatever, transfer stuff or buy stuff from furniture shops. So this is the kind of stuff we need, 100%.
Mm.
Question for us, guys. What proportion of EV cars have charge port at the front versus the rear? Yeah, good question. Good question.
Well, if we take Teslas, that's usually 60 to 70% of the fleet. Then
Mm,
majority of them are in the rear. The Attos are catching up. They're in the front. The Kia e-Niros, the Hyundai products are at the front. Apart from Ionic 5 and 6, I think they're at the rear. So yeah, a majority of them are at the rear at this stage.
yep. Now, this is an older graphic, but the AEVA have a good information picture infographic here on where the charge port locations are. And I think this is, I mean, there are obviously some newer cars that have come out since this picture was done, but you can see it's all over the place. Like, you know, they've the OEMs and the charging and the EV manufacturers can put it wherever they want. So I guess it comes down to having a longer cable to be more versatile, I guess, for all these different locations. I mean, most third-party sites have got or chargers have got a pretty good pulley system where you can pull on the plug Tesla obviously have got a shorter plug, which I think they're addressing in V4 to accommodate a greater variety of EVs that can charge on their stalls. So, yeah, it's a funny one. Where do you put a charge port? Do you standardize it? It's not really standardized in a petrol vehicle either. It's either left or right. So, yeah, good question though. Don't know. Not sure there'll ever be a standard, to be honest.
Well, one thing that might change just quickly, as we get more BYDs on the road, which is inevitable with the new Dolphin and Atto 3 doing relatively well with over 7,000 sales this year. There will be, that shift from majority being rear mounted ports to, I guess, having at the front will come. The seal, I think, is at the back again. Yeah, the seal's at the back again, but then the Dolphin, from memory, is at the front.
I
But
think you're
yeah,
right,
as there's more Atto 3s and Dolphins coming, then we'll see that shift.
Yep, that's right. It should be well, dare say 50-50. I'm sure Luke Todd will be happy with me, but it'll reach almost very close to parity. I think Tesla and BYD eventually. We'll see. I don't predict the future here. We just speculate. Let's speaking of BYD, let's pop this article here from Riz earlier this week. So BYD electric vehicle sales skyrocket in July as global expansion continues.
They are moving quick. So they've had over 260,000 sales in that 1 month of what they call new energy vehicles. The new energy vehicles is a combination of pure battery electric EVs like Atto 3 and Dolphin, but also their plug-in hybrid range, which pretty much is only China only at this stage. There aren't too many other countries that get their plug-in hybrid vehicles. We certainly don't. So yeah, 260 odd thousand vehicles that they sold, and it's the highest month of sales they've ever had.
Yeah, it's really quite impressive. The BYD march forward, very impressive indeed. So, we've got the Atto 3 here in Australia. Dolphin's definitely coming. Seal, you would think so. So yeah, watch this space. As I said, I think BYD is definitely on the march in Australia, and the Ute might be coming too. And that Riz up. What I'm more excited about is opening the door for more Chinese brands to come into Australia to see that BYD can do well here. Brands like XPeng, NIO, hopefully they'll come over here as well.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I'll try and find it for a little later in the stream. There is news from, I believe, one of the founders at XPeng basically saying next year is the year where we go global. They already are in Netherlands and parts of Europe, but yeah, they're really looking at what other markets they can expand in. And we sort of touched on this earlier. A lot of the Chinese brands can't compete in China anymore because there's just too many brands and there's too much competition. If you either go global or basically die for a lot of them, because there's that much good quality electric vehicles available within that Chinese market. And yeah, it would be very interesting to see which one are next. There's a couple of good candidates. Nita is another brand that's already in Thailand. They are starting to make some more compelling, more sort of cars ready for the European and Western markets. There's another brand called Aion, AION, and then obviously there's the likes of XPengs and NIOs as well.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm hoping too some of these brands will start to take hold and contribute to the charging network too. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but it'd be nice for some of these OEMs to do that, not just Tesla, because that would definitely help our highway driving and road trips too.
XPeng does have a charging network. Well, so does NIO has swap stations, but XPeng's got a fast charge network in China. But I guess by the time they establish themselves here, whether it's something they'd like to do or not is there to be seen. But if they see a gap in the market because others can't fill it and we're getting too many EVs and not enough chargers, they will have a crack.
Yeah, that's right. That's what the Chinese are good at, building things quickly and of reasonable quality too. So fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. Riz, anything else you want to chat about?
So we also had uh, our friends at the vet clinic have made an upgrade to their charger that's currently there, the DC fast charger in South Australia. That's been very
Mm.
exciting.
Yeah, that's right. So a shout out to Andrew and the team from Whyalla. They keep in touch with me. Whyalla is a regional town in South Australia, and they sent me some photos this week because they listen to our stream. So hello if you're watching and listening, and they take advice from Riz and myself and Rahul on good charging stations, what to put at a good charging station, what we love as EV owners and drivers. So this is what they've done here. This is they've put a roof on top, which I love personally, sheltering from the elements, protects the charger, protects the car, protects the occupants, and they've also added an air compressor as well. How good is this? Beautifully branded, housed, so it's protected, and instructions on how to put your tire pressure up. And they make great pains to say no government funding was involved. So Andrew is very clear about this. No arena funding. This is all on the back of their own private funding from the clinic. And it's great to see this kind of stuff. So if you are driving through regional South Australia, head through Whyalla, say hello to the team, and this is the kind of stuff we need. Riz, we talked about this last week. Education around charging sites, right? This is right. This is right here, just on the power unit. What to do at a charging station, which is fantastic.
Well, that's what we need, more education. And it's very clear what the team's done there at the vet clinic that, really putting it out there that this is how you use our different equipment, including like, the air compressor is great because now people can fill up their tires and something that a lot of the traditional, even the petrol stations are not very good at doing. Window washers and other things that are already at petrol stations. EV drivers generally don't get to see a lot of them, but I think what they're doing, just as you said, Tom, no funding from Arena or others, there is a lot of lessons to learn. And to be honest, a lot of it is common sense, particularly for EV drivers that they know what they want in an EV charger. It's interesting how Arena and others just don't listen. And here's a business on their own doing it and sort of leading the way.
Yeah, 100%. So if you guys, or if you're a business owner and want to install DC charger, I think you would do well listening to these guys and even having a chat with them. Andrew's very open to discussing how he installed this. So yeah, see what you need to do to make it a comfortable, good stop for EV owners. And this poster here, I've just noticed here reliability. Our aim is to be 100% uptime. That's a great mission to have because there's nothing worse than pulling up to a charger that's not working. So good to hear that they're very keen to make sure this works all the time. And they've got information like rubbish bins, plug share, tell us how we're doing, tourism around the area, shopping. So yeah, stuff like this to occupy the half an hour that you need to charge your EV. So well done, Andrew and the team. Well done, Whyalla Pet, our vet clinic in South Australia. Good work. Yeah, awesome. Let's take some more comments now. So we've got Tassie saying, believe the Tesla Semi won't arrive until ADR changes are made. Well, yep, correct. ADR needs to have a rethink to accommodate new cars, particularly EVs. Yep. Wasn't the Atto 3 the biggest selling EV in Sweden for July? Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, it was. And I think it's year to date, it's Model Y still, but in July, the Swedish people are quite happy with that, with what BYD is offering there. So it's a vote of confidence for a brand that, within the EV community, everyone knows BYD, but outside of that, which is majority of the population, because we're still early adopters, BYD is not a known brand. And for them to just go into Europe and all of a sudden have that spot really, helps them gain that confidence with more European people looking at making the switch to an EV.
Yeah, correct. It's exceptional value, 100% for that, for what you pay. Electric Nut Rider says we need more businesses like this, referring to the Whyalla charger. I agree. I really do. Gary Drasdale, any update on the MG4 awaiting test drive? Well, Riz and I might have something lined up for you next week. So we have got the MG4 in Sydney, so stay tuned. Looking forward to testing that out indeed. So I think they're launching it very soon as well. So stay tuned, everyone. Should be an exceptionally good value vehicle. 82 Riders is an excellent local initiative. Billy Lid says we have 2 times 7 kilowatt chargers and solar panels on the roof at our office. Congratulations. That's a good start. It's good. Riz, what else should we talk about next?
So we'll just touch back on Xpeng briefly. There seems to be, their CEO has recently come out and said next year is the year for them to really expand. Dozens of countries, so whatever that means. But they seem to be doing quite well, and it's probably the last fortnight or so, Xpeng's come out because Volkswagen's gone to them to purchase an electric vehicle platform because to compete in the Chinese market. And now Xpeng sold them a platform. Apparently, it's from a vehicle they launched earlier this year, and we spoke to Elliot about it. It was a big, large SUV, the G9, but that platform is already outdated. This goes to show how quickly things are moving in China. So Volkswagen had gone and purchased that platform from Xpeng, and it's an outdated platform. So by the time Volkswagen develops EVs on it, it'll be 2026, and Xpeng might have 2 new generations of platforms. So it's exciting to see that they're developing their technology and hopefully hitting a lot of international markets next year.
Yeah, this is super exciting. We definitely want to invite Xpeng into Australia. They're probably one of the better, well-known brands from China. It's good to see the CEO here saying, "I don't want to build a China-only company. I want to build a global company." And I think doing this, testing countries like Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Southeast Asia, would be a good start for Xpeng. Hopefully soon, yeah. And if you're watching anyone from Xpeng, Riz and I are more than happy to test your vehicles for sure. I have to start refreshing my Mandarin a little bit to invite them over a bit more. But it's good to see though. That's good. Now, there's a good point here from Gary Buzowski. Yesterday at Silverwater Resort in San Remo, 3 of their 4 chargers are broken. I emailed them with photos a month ago when 2 out of 4 were broken. How can we put a spotlight on these sort of sites? Yeah, Riz, this is a good point we need to make here. How do we keep these people accountable with the uptime? Any thoughts?
I guess there needs to be a role by, operators, or charge point operators. So ChargeFox is one of them. Rob's come on previously from ChargeFox, and he's spoken about how they don't own the chargers on site, but they work with the hosts to ensure that the reliability is kept up. I think there just needs to be better communication between the hosts, ChargeFox, or any other charge point operator, where within the apps that needs to be clear that, okay, we have an issue with this particular charger. This is the reason why. This is when there's an ETA, the ETA to get the parts and then to fix it. And if people are communicated to in a more effective way, I think that will resolve a lot of these issues. And if you're waiting for new parts, especially if they're AC chargers, what is the wait? I think that all it does is puts the business in a bit of a strange situation, because all of a sudden you're telling the market that you don't really care about the EV charging component of it, which is one of the reasons why people do pick certain resorts or places to stay, as well as particular sites to charge at to support the local businesses. So ChargeFox, all the operators, business owners, everyone just needs to come on board and make communication a lot better for EV drivers.
Yeah, good point there, Riz. Just as an analogy, like I don't catch public transport too often, but when I do, I'm heartened and encouraged to know that the train drivers in Sydney are actually communicating a lot more often, and conductors too now via the intercom. I know as a kid catching the train to school, like when the train stops, you have no idea what's happening. No one talks to you. But now, like even for the briefest moment, the announcement will come on, we're stopping because of this and that, that's all we want to know as humans. What's going on? Like I don't want to be stuck here. So you're right, Riz. I think communication through the app, through PlugShare, and to ChargeFox's credit, they have been doing that recently, probably thanks to Rob's efforts. But just a segue to that, I think having more accommodation areas with plug-in charging on site, and that would take a huge burden off DC charging locations, because as an EV owner, knowing that I've got options to stay at hotels and motels and caravan parks with AC charging on site, that lifts a lot of the need to charge on the road, because I know, okay, if I get there with 10%, that's okay, because I've got charging located on site. So if you are an accommodation owner, Airbnb owner, whatever, I would strongly encourage you to install an AC charger today in 2023. There's nothing more valuable you can do right now for your property than doing that. As the transition continues, as we keep pushing up the numbers, and as Riz puts up his numbers from VFAX, people will need AC charging when they're on holidays. So I think I would really ask you to do that for the EV transition, to put in accommodation charging. All right, comments from the crew. So do you think some of these Chinese companies will move their HQ out of China to allow them to get into countries like the US with their IRA and NEVI funding requirements? Good question.
I think that's multi-billion-dollar question, that one, because what's happening with that IRA funding, which relies on the fact that the electric vehicle has to be made in the US, and the battery has to be made and assembled in the US. There are some clauses recently with Korean automakers that have said, why are we excluded? We're one of the free trade sort of countries with the US. And even though they don't qualify for the battery incentive to purchase, let's say, something like an Ioniq 5. So if I was to purchase Ioniq 5 in the US now, I wouldn't get the $7,500 tax sort of incentive from the federal government when I do my tax return, because it's not made in the US, it comes from Korea. Having said that, if I leased that car, I'd get that $7,500 credit. Same car, made in the same country. So what is interesting is now a lot of the Chinese makers are trying to do partnerships with South Korea to have facilities there so that they can make cars in South Korea and ship them over to the US and enter the US market that way. Now, that is either way, the automakers in China, due to the competition and other things, will find a way of getting into the US and Canadian market. As much as we'd like to say that we're a little bit behind, but I think we're sort of the catalyst, because BYD used Australia to launch the Atto 3 before they launched in pretty much any other market outside of China. So we were sort of the test market. And then, Australia and New Zealand were test markets, and now they've gone to Europe. Next step definitely is to go to the US. So large companies will get there, and they will base themselves wherever they need to base themselves to ensure that they get that huge US market.
Yeah, that's right. We were definitely one of the test beds for the Atto 3. I would dare say one of the first few. We're the perfect Western country, or quote unquote Western country, to try it out, right? So close to China. Fairly open to, despite what we think about our market, it's fairly open to new ideas still compared to other markets. It's proven successful for the BYD brand. So fingers crossed. As you said, Riz, they'll find a way to get into the US.
No competition, and I think that even with the hurdles we had last year with BYD entering the market and the ANCAP safety issues and all of it, we're seeing every month this year over 1,000 BYD Atto 3s have been delivered. That's a pretty big feat from our brand, which in most of last year, August, September, October, was not even able to deliver a couple of hundred of a month.
Yeah, that's huge. It's huge. Let's take some more comments. Gaffer saying new manufacturing is really teaching old world car manufacturers a thing or two about being agile, correct? Until the EV explosion, they could just plod along. Now they're left in the dust, kind of sad. Yep. As Elliot told us when he was on recently in China, the recent Shanghai Auto Show, a few worried European auto executives there looking at what's going on in China. So you're right. Question, being told BYD or Dolphin test cars are landing in the country soon? Less than a month? Okay, cool. Your review and my test drive will determine if I reclaim the deposit. Yeah, versus MG4, right? So I'm curious to know as well. And Tazzy saying, yeah, looking forward to Tom's review of Dolphin Ben. Me too. I'm looking forward to my review too. Once I get a car to look at. And Riz is right up in the driven. Yeah. Okay. Paul says, every time that a hydrogen station opens in Australia, there's a big hoopla. As far as I know, there's only 2 in the country and a handful of cars. Why do they still get press credibility? Well, Paul, we better follow the money there and find out why they get the press credibility. Riz can give us more insight on that, I'm sure.
Well, look, I think it's there's a lot of big companies with a lot of money that pay very little tax in this country that have a lot of pull with the government. So it doesn't matter whether anyone will use it or not. People are in the government are easily convinced to think that it's a good idea. So they're being advised, unfortunately, by people that don't drive EVs, don't understand the full potential of how easy it is to get electricity, and the losses in an electric motor are next to none. Put it into a battery, utilize it off the battery, and it's all there. There's no need to blow things up like with an internal combustion engine car or hydrogen vehicles. Um, even with hydrogen, to create it, you still need to use so much energy and electricity that is pretty scarce. Elon's come out and said people underestimate how much electricity shortage we're about to have in the coming years, and batteries, solar is a key part of it, and hydrogen isn't. A lot of the big manufacturers for trucks as well, where hydrogen was always considered to be a very viable option in Europe, are now saying, no, we're going to just make bigger electric trucks. Tesla's shown that with their semi, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, nobody's told the people in Canberra that that's the case. So we continue to give out money to companies like Toyota that is so bullish and against EVs. And because one of the hydrogen fueling stations is at their Altona old factory here in Melbourne, and we've got barely any Mirais or any of those vehicles or Hyundai Nexos that are supposed to use it. So it's unfortunate, but it's people like the audience and us having the conversation with everyday people to say, we want electric vehicles and we want to generate our own electricity with solar, cleaner electricity, and not have these hydrogen plants and hundreds of millions of dollars wasted on this stuff. And hopefully that will also kick some sense into people at Deloitte, KPMG, PwC, and all of these companies that advise the government on this sort of stuff. And sometimes I just feel they're only doing it to win more work, because they know it's not going to work. So they continuously tell the same story. And I feel that, all of us can make an impact by putting the truth out there that EVs are the way to go.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're paid consultants. So if you want a result, you pay someone to tell you the result, right? I'm sorry. It's biased research is not research at all. I'm sorry. I've seen that many times. But also EV batteries are definitely getting, the longevity is great. We've proven that many times on the channel. And the companies can see that, the smart companies, they realize you don't have to keep recycling these batteries. They last a really long time. So yes, it's a far more efficient process for us, for companies. It just makes a lot of sense. But in some ways, an inefficient process creates more work, Riz, as you touched on there. So that's the sad reality. Jerry Can says the Queensland government is backdating the 6K rebate to 1st of July. Oh, thank you, Jerry. That's what I love these streams, because, we get information like this from you guys. So thank you so much. That's very good. And Han Solo is the new Tesla, saying the new Tesla supercharger between California and Las Vegas for the Tesla Semi looks really cool. Yeah, that would be so good. The ultimate truck stop, right?
It's fantastic. There's a channel on YouTube called Out of Spec, and
yes.
he's a pretty good reviewer out of the US. Loves EVs, and he recently went to that site, and I think it's currently sitting on some sort of a pallet. There's a charger there, one of those semi chargers, and he's pretty tall, and this is taller than him.
Wow.
Thick cable, 1 megawatt, probably able to deliver 1 megawatt of power. Fantastic.
Amazing. And Tassie again, definitely need destination charging anywhere from 7 to 22 kilowatts, and more than one would be beneficial at accommodation. Plus, good if you could book it even if it was for the time needed. That would be good. Some sort of smart booking system where you book it for like 4 hours overnight. Someone else can plug in, whatever. That would make a lot of sense. And a gaffer is saying, yes, we have a new hydrogen station in Wollongong. It's as bad as you can make it, owned by Coregas, 100% steam refined hydrogen. Still trying to find it. I think it's inside the works. Yeah, that's shocking, isn't it? Paul Lepardi, I was at Hotel Kurrajong in Canberra last night. There is a Tesla destination charger there. Yep, try and encourage these places with AC charging too. That if they see more EVs coming to stay at their place, it encourages them to install more. So good work. Yeah, Riz, please make a run of a seat at Parliament. Maybe form an EV political party. I'd vote for you, Riz.
Canberra is a bit too cold for me, and but stay tuned. I might be there soon. But no,
Yep.
I think we need to spread the good word around what electrification really is. Otherwise, all of this rhetoric that gets put out there, it's not fair for anyone. And we know electrification is the future.
Yeah. Look at this. Senator Riz Akhtar, Senator David Pocock. Yeah, they'd be two I'd be voting for. Riz, let's talk about BYD in Malaysia.
Oh, that's good to see. Malaysia seems to be the new forefront, which is, we've seen Singapore. They haven't had too many EVs for too long, but now Tesla's there, and I think BYD is also launching, and BYD is going into markets, as we've discussed, where there's not a lot of competition. And we know that once people experience it, there's this huge initial demand, which in Australia, by the way, the recent sort of insight is BYD ended up having close to 7,000 7,000 orders on the Atto 3 before they really started mass deliveries of them. So it was a lot of pent-up demand, and Malaysia is going to see the same thing.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this article here. So I know a little bit about the Malaysian market. The Sime Darby Motors is a big distributor there. So good to see they're very serious in Malaysia. And look at the pricing too. So it starts from 99,000 ringgit, which is 22,000 US dollars, presumably. So about 35 Aussie, which is very similar to what we're offering here in Australia. So I assume that's like the basic entry. That's I think that's relatively affordable. Obviously, the standard of living is a bit not as good as Australia here, but still, that's for an EV, that's relatively affordable for the Malaysian market. So great to see that's happening over there. And then the extended range is 124,000 ringgit too. So yeah, looks like it's expanding in the Southeast Asian market. Riz, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. It's good.
And I guess very soon, if not already, Indonesia would be another forefront of what's happening. As we know, Rahul's there at the moment, and he sent us a couple of pictures of the Wuling Air.
Yes.
It's floating around there on the streets in Bali. So there's more EV manufacturing that particularly Indonesia is very serious about having more EV manufacturing with their resources around battery materials. So when that starts to happen, then Malaysia may even be getting cars from Indonesia. We might be getting cars from Indonesia in the near future as well.
That would be cool. Ray's saying they need a Ute as Malaysia and Indo love their Utes. They call them lorries actually in Malaysia and Singapore, I know at least. And they're kind of funny. They're not really Utes. They're like really little trucks.
Yeah.
And it's actually legal in Singapore, Malaysia to actually have passengers in the tray. Like you can actually see in Singapore, like this lorry is legally allowed to carry like 10 packs or whatever, 8 packs, depending how big the tray is, which is quite an unusual look for Westerners going over there going, why are these people on the back of the truck? But it's actually legal to travel at the freeway at 90 kilometers an hour, having people on the back of the truck. So having a lorry or a big ute that is EV and can carry passengers there, that would make a huge difference, actually. That's good. Jerry's saying I'm seeing more ICE car ads on TV, especially big SUVs. That's true. Are they trying to boost sales before the fuel efficiency standard comes in? Interesting point there.
I think the car industry now is going through a bit of a shift, even though we're seeing huge numbers in sales as a whole market. There were 90 odd thousand cars sold in July, which is a lot higher than what they normally are. But at the same time, the market's being flooded in the US. A lot of the dealers now are flooded with inventory, and US is a bit of a lead indicator. So that's for ICE vehicles, and it's the same thing's going to happen here. Dealers now have too much stock. People don't want to spend money. Interest rates are too high. So it's going to be interesting. So soon, all of those pre-COVID deals with these ICE cars will start to come before the something like the fuel efficiency standard. But at the moment, we're still the dumping ground.
Yep, this was always going to happen, right? We predicted this many years ago. Ray says, yep, Indo did tell Tesla you cannot just get our nickel, but we got manufacturing here too. Makes sense. Yep, value add that nickel. At the other end of the market, Riz, before we wrap up, let's talk about Porsche Macan and spy photos.
Looks cool. It's delayed. It was supposed to be out at closer to the end of this year, but it was pushed back to next year due to surprise, software issues.
Software issues. Yep. It's always software issues, isn't it? With these European brands, they just can't quite get it right. We know VW has issues.
Well, Porsche obviously is owned by VW Group, and they don't. I think they were listed recently, but they're still roughly the same company. So they've got a lot of issues around getting their software right, and then the CEO that was going to develop that software in-house got sacked, Herbert Diess, I think last year sometimes. So it's going to be interesting. Basically, Volkswagen Group is pretty desperate now. They're, as we said, going into Chinese market, trying to buy older platforms of EV manufacturers. So their cars now are always going to be behind what really is cutting edge, which is what the likes of Tesla and to a certain degree what BYD is offering in terms of EV platforms. So the Macan is their best-selling car. It's not the 911, it's not the Taycan, it's the Macan because people want SUVs. The demand for an electric SUV from Porsche will be extremely high, but can they deliver without offering a poor experience? That's to be seen.
Yep. And just back on software, I had a viewer tell me this week their navigation system wasn't working in the Genesis GV60, and there's no sort of communication from Genesis. So that's always the issue with buying from a brand that's not fully committed to EVs just yet, which I've publicly said this on stage at Fully Charged. Like, just be very careful, because if your brand isn't looking after you because they're not serious, then this is what's going to happen, right? You need a brand that's going to take care of you because you're their only customer, segment. It's only EVs or nothing else. There's no ICE to fall back on. So just be super careful with brands that cannot offer over-the-air software updates like Tesla, BYD, and to some degree Polestar and Volvo as well. So you've been warned. A few more comments quickly. Gaffer saying, remembering running around the back of a Ute with mates as a kid. I think I remember doing that too, actually. Bit more lenient back then. Yes, that's true. And people not realize what's going to happen to their combustion vehicle. They will be worthless eventually.
They will combust.
Yes, right. Now, Riz, I didn't realize there were some spy photos for the Model 3 in New Zealand. I'll just pop this up real quick.
Oh yes, this the photo, I think this particular one was taken a couple of weeks ago, but the word is that outside the proving grounds in New Zealand where they're doing winter testing, cars are now ending up on the street. So they're doing a bit of testing around the roads in that part of South Island in New Zealand. So fingers crossed, we will see some more shots coming in. Also, though, there is now a few sources are saying that mid-August is when the new Model 3 potentially will have a pretty substantial sort of production run in Shanghai. and that's about to start. But I guess time will tell, and whether we see them in the coming weeks, we'll find out.
That's right. So keep watching our Thursday streams. We'll talk about that probably a bit more as well. Let's quickly wrap up. This is C Electric delivering or helping to deliver uniform linen rental. So
So a lot of the linen that you see in hospitals and accommodation is actually rented. So they basically rent it out. Once it gets soiled, gets sent back to companies like Alsco, where it's washed and sterilized, ironed, and sent back, clean sheets, all of that sort of stuff. So and they have a couple of, let's call it, linen processing sites around Australia. And they're starting to make the move to electric trucks from SCA Electric.
Yep, SCA is doing some good work there. Tesla China sees 10,000 insurance registrations in July's fourth week.
Yeah, so it's lower than what was expected. July is the recent sort of production data out of Shanghai or out of the, Tesla's factory in China suggests that there is a drop in production by about between 20 and 30% compared to June for the whole month of July. And that could be the upgrades that Tesla and Elon Musk have been talking about across their factories. And those upgrades are probably continuing now till mid to late August. So it would be really interesting to see whether we actually do see those upgrades lead to production of the new Model 3 as such. So that's what it's sort of hinting at.
Yep. Thanks, Ray, confirming that too. Yep, I've heard that as well. Not a drop in demand, it's just upgrades. And Chevrolet reveals final US prices for the Blazer EV.
It's originally was put out there as a pretty affordable car, but now it seems that they've cut out the affordable variant of this vehicle. GM will struggle big time. They cut the Bolt, which was their best-selling electric car, at the end of Q1, and then they bought it back at the end of Q2. So it's all over the place. Hopefully, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, what is going on at GM? Interesting. At least they've signed up for the NACS charging standard for Tesla supercharger network. All right, well, I think we might be almost wrapping up here. Let's take a few more comments real quick. H2 Rider says Legacy Auto is done, as does Ray. He's predicting 2028. We'll come back to you in 2028, Ray. Question for you, Riz. Do you think Tesla will drop again in price anytime soon or in the near future? Where's your crystal ball?
I think they will keep it there at the moment because the demand is certainly there with incentives like in Queensland with $6,000 being offered. New South Wales subsidies doing quite well as well. And that's before we know if the federal government will actually kick into gear and offer something nationally as well to help with EV adoption. I think Tesla will keep their prices there where they are. If the new Model 3 is to come out, there will be a lot of interested owners that may want to make the switch to a newer car. So the demand will still sort of remain high. So I think it's going to stay this way. But we'll find out first week of next quarter whether Tesla does what they do.
That's right. I think Elon Musk did say too, or someone from Tesla said they won't raise the prices even with the new Highland update. So
yeah,
we'll see if they keep to their word. Question for you from Ray Riz. Have you seen the new bus stop coach running around Melbourne, as I've seen one in Melton yesterday?
No, I wonder if it's one of those smaller on-demand type of coaches. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out.
Yep, get your runners on, Riz. And thank you, Ray. Yes, keep those likes coming. Appreciate that. All right, that might be it for today, Riz. So thank you very much for joining us as always.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everyone. Lots of positive things to look forward to in the coming weeks.
Indeed. Yeah, thanks everyone for watching us live on a Saturday morning on the east coast of Australia. I really appreciate your comments and questions. If you're watching us on replay, make sure you drop a comment as well. We do read everything. And if you're listening to us on audio podcast, thank you so much as well. And if you've got more questions and comments, we will certainly try to answer them on Thursday on our regular stream as well. And good news, we've secured the one and only Nash from Tesla and the Gong to join us on Thursday as Raul remains on holidays with his family. So come join us on Thursday. next week. We will certainly have more to chat about, and looking forward to hear from Nash about his holiday in the US, including his first experience with full self-driving and his Model S and X Plaid. So stay tuned for that. All right, Riz. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We shall see you next week on the stream. Take care for now, and bye. Happy charging. See ya.